Cold.
It's really cold outside. It's raining.
Okay.
Did you not?
Well,
You've been here very early.
Yeah,
so
I was here early, so
it's drizzling.
Okay.
It is chilly. It's very chilly, and it's horrible.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The
Thank
London
you.
weather. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to this to the program once again, Kiki. Now, coming up later on our main topic of the day: the exploitation of women and girls by men in power, in powerful situation. Why is it unspoken of? This is something that happens a lot, not just in Africa, across the world, but especially as we're Africans and the show is Talk Africa. We're looking at the African setting. Okay, that's what we'll be talking about later on the program. We are live on Sky Channel 291. You can also watch us live on Facebook, GNTV UK, or you can go to our Talk Africa page on Facebook as well. You can listen to us on GN Radio on Sky Channel 0185 or tune in. All right, so go on there and listen to us live. Let's look at the newspaper, the headlines making the newspaper headlines this morning. And let's start with the Daily Express. Excuse me. And the Daily Express says several papers lead with the news that Football Association is in negotiations to sell Wembley Stadium to US billionaire Shahid Khan. The Daily Express asks how the FA can consider such a deal when taxpayer money paid for the construction of the stadium. Now, a lot of people are talking about Wembley and that the FA are looking to sell. Of course, Wembley is a huge landmark in England. The 1966 World Cup, even one of the players of the 1966 World Cup, one of the winners, is also saying that maybe the FA are going bonkers trying to sell Wembley. Let's look at the Daily Star. The Daily Star on the front page also got a picture of Wembley. The Daily Star describes England football fans' fury over the news that Mr. Khan could buy Wembley for a reported £900 million. It suggests that the stadium could be renamed after a US sponsor such as Google or McDonald's. Let's look at The Sun. The Sun also leads on the Wembley story and quotes 1966 World Cup winning goalie Gordon Banks as saying Wembley is special, the FA is wrong. So look at the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail says Donald Trump faces a London ban amid fears of violent demonstrations in the capital when he visits the UK in July. It reports the US president could instead go to Scotland or the Prime Minister's country retreat in Buckinghamshire. Okay, so Londoners don't want Donald Trump on the streets of London. We'll see how that pans out. The Daily Telegraph. President Trump will meet the Queen when he visits the UK in July, says the Daily Telegraph. The paper suggests he could head to Windsor Castle to avoid protests in London. And the Times says Home Secretary Amber Rudd has become embroiled in a new political row over whether Britain will stay in the custom union. It reports her comments that she was not going to be drawn on the subject, even though the Prime Minister has said Britain would leave. It hasn't been a good week for Amber Rudd. And the Independent. The feature of Amber Rudd also makes the front page of the Independent. The paper says the Home Secretary was defiant in the face of calls to resign from opposition MP over the Windrush row. We will be talking about that as well. And the Metro has Bill Cosby on the front page, and they're saying guilty, guilty, guilty. The Metro leads on the news that Bill Cosby has been convicted of sexual assault. It says the actor, nicknamed America's Dad, could spend the rest of his life in jail. Let's look at The Guardian. The Guardian's front page is dominated by a photo of Ruth Davidson and her partner after the Scottish Tory leader announced she is pregnant with their first child. It reports a gene breakthrough as researchers have identified 44 variant that raises the risk of depression. Let's look at the Financial Times. Dutch bank is dropping a long-held ambition to become a leading global investment bank, reports the Financial Times. It quotes newly appointed chief executive Christian Sewing is saying the company is in wholesale banking, deeply rooted in Europe. So that's the news paper headlines, and let's talk about some of the stories, and we cannot move away from Amber Rudd. Let's talk about her appearing before the Select Committee and also in the House of Commons. In front of the Select Committees, she said there were no targets to remove illegal immigrants, and then she turned around and said that there were targets.
I think the Tories they're very good, and they're at lying. They're very good at fabricating things. They're very good at blaming the next person. They're very good at throwing their stuff under the bus. But at this time, it's looking like the chickens have come home to roost, and we can see that she's lied all through. Why she's still in post, I don't know, but there are different rules for different people. If it was Jeremy Corbyn, they'd be baying for his blood, but here we are. It's blatant, it's there, and yet now that she's still waking up and going to work the next day. I don't get it.
Is the issue here the fact that targets were set, or...?
I think targets were set. Targets must have been set. The Home Office is telling us that there were targets.
Yes.
So, I'm looking at it and I just can't believe it. There were targets set, and it's just that it's backfired. And however much they're trying to say they weren't and trying to dig themselves out of that hole, they are getting deeper into it, because the more she says things, the more it's proven that that's not what the truth is. I don't really blame just Amber Rudd. I think that this has been happening for quite a while now, and we really should look wider in the net and see who started it, and it could possibly be her boss, and we should look at, her boss's involvement in it.
Well, the policy was under Theresa May, the now Prime Minister. But yesterday, the issue of targets, I think people are a bit split on that, whether it's a good idea or not. On the other hand, some people are saying, look, you do need to set targets. So if there are illegal immigrants in this country, then by all means go out and get them, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, people were saying that, look, the it raises a hostile environment where, in instances where we had the Windrush cases, because everybody's just after the numbers. So what will happen is people will tend to treat people the same rather than treating individuals separately according to the cases.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand the targets really, because if there are 700 immigrants, illegal immigrants, and they're here, so you get the 700 out. If you set targets to get there are 700 illegal people here, but you have set targets that every year you need 1,000 to remove 1,000 people from here. When you set targets like that, then it means you're going to involve someone who's lapsed, someone who is half and half illegal, which means they're here, the papers haven't finished.
Yes.
Someone who is here for a reason, and they're asking for extension, but because you have targets, you now are throwing people out and setting different goalposts at every turn. Some of the people here, for example, the Windrush, it's not, you see, some of them came to do jobs which the British people couldn't do. And that is also another aspect of an issue which I don't get. Because you should be able to do these jobs in your country so that you don't have to go out and get people. But if you invite people and you ask them to do jobs to help you rebuild your country, and you promise them everything, all sorts of things, and they come, and because possibly they may be illiterates, possibly they don't know how to fill forms, possibly they don't listen to the news, and therefore some people day-to-day existence is get up, go to work, come, eat, do, and go to bed. They don't watch the news. They don't do certain things, and you cannot force them to be like that. That is their life. When laws change, or when the laws that are changing are not being shared openly, these people will be caught in the net, and that's what's happened. It's unfortunate, and because it's unfortunate, Amber Rudd, who knows, and the rest of them, it's not just her. They have used that in a way to get the people out. If you look at this Windrush issue, it is not a matter of getting illegal immigrants out. It's just getting black people out. The whole thing is just color. This is what I feel. It's not very nice, but
Well, let's stay on this for a little bit more, because yesterday I had the opportunity to listen to one young man talking about the system here, the immigration system here, where he said, look, he came in here, he was an illegal immigrant, well, in the sense that his documents were at the Home Office. He had applied for his citizenship, but he was denied, I think, 3 times or so. And he said, look, I wasn't working. I wasn't allowed to work. Luckily, I had family and friends here who were supporting me. So every time he made an application and it was refused, the money went. The amount of money he paid went. So he was really questioning the status quo with regards to immigration, the immigration system here. And, we tend to find a lot of our brothers and sisters in the same predicament who you're not allowed to work because you haven't got your papers, but then when you do submit your papers, it gets rejected or declined, or even they go as far as if you miss a sentence or just a small mistake he make, that's it gets rejected and you lose your money.
One of the things about
KIKI, let me just interject. Let's take our first break. When we'll come back, we'll talk more on this subject. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
This
is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to Talk Africa. You can join the conversation on our Facebook page, GNTV UK. Soon we'll open the phone line so you can call in as well and share your thoughts. In the studio, we have candykisseih. I don't think I introduced you properly. Social commentator, also a radio host. On your Instagram page, you do seem to be doing a lot, Kiki.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we became friends yesterday.
Yes. So do go on to her page. It's very interesting. She's got her hands in a lot of things she's doing. And she has her own show, the Kiki Chat Show, every Wednesdays, 9 p.m. on GN Radio. Now, what I was saying with regards to Amber Rudd and the Windrush issue, we're just looking at the whole immigration system, how there are people here who are deemed as illegal immigrants. They can't work. They've applied for their citizenship. They're still waiting. And it takes a while. It takes a very long time for the Home Office to get back to you. This guy started his application all the way back in 2001. And he only got his citizenship in 2015. So
2001?
2001.
It took 15 years.
14 years, yes, to get his citizenship. And there's a lot of people going through the same challenges. So they're here, he wasn't allowed to work. He couldn't earn any money. Luckily for him, he had friends and family who were supporting him.
I don't understand it, but you see, they make it look like it's all, life and death issues why people stay here. But people stay here for different reasons. And especially if you go into our countries, this Commonwealth, as they say, where you go into our countries and you plunder and pillage and bring everything out, of course the human beings will follow. So if my issue really is, what does this whole thing about getting people out, it is a certain class of people that they are maltreating and getting out.
Yeah.
You see, it's not. It's the ones who have outlived their stay. They've done certain things, and
just to add on to what you're saying, there are people from Australia, Canada, the US who are here that they've overstayed.
Oh yeah,
and they don't go after them.
Because they're white. You must always remember that the issue of immigration. When you talk about an immigrant, you are looking at the color. You do not necessarily look at a white man walking along the road as a foreigner. But when you see a black person, you know definitely that to the natives, that this is a foreigner. This is a black person, and most invariably they think every black person is an infiltrator. Is coming for their jobs. And what jobs? You guys are here. You're not applying for the jobs. You do not do the jobs. Some of them are not qualified to do the jobs that other people are doing. So when you ask about, when they say we are coming for your jobs, you're coming for this, you're coming for your women. They're coming for your women. I mean, what is going on, and why do people, one of the things that we ourselves should do research on is, why do white people hate black people so much?
Do they hate? Hate is a very strong word.
But it is the
would
feeling.
You say they hate black people?
But hate is the apt word that I have, because I can't think of anything. If there was a stronger word than hate, I would use that.
Is it not a matter of trying to please the nation? Because when it comes to elections, immigration is such a huge topic, which conservative governments have failed to tackle this issue. So then, if a government comes in, it needs to take a radical decision to try and bring it down. And this is what the current government have taken, and unfortunately, it hasn't worked.
You see, if the people have no issue with immigration, if the people have no issue with the color of our skin and therefore have issues with it, if you came on the platform and stood there and said, and I'm going to get rid of the immigrants or the foreigners, or it wouldn't work.
But then is it not? People are here illegally, and they're not supposed to be here, so they need to be seen to be getting them out. The ones that are here illegally.
It can still be dealt in a different way. It can be dealt, but whereas you are whipping up people into a frenzy and making an immigrant look like he's an evil. Do you know that the history of this country, the Jews were immigrants at one point. The Italians, they were called kinks and whatnot. So, I mean, they had all sorts of names, the same way that they call us niggers. They were immigrants at some point. The problem, though, is slowly they assimilated into the system, and also slowly because of the color of their skin. Because before they spoke a different language, they ate different food and all of that. But now pizza is everywhere. Your and my children that's their favorite food, etc., etc. So I don't know whether it is our color that has made it a prolonged situation for us. All the other people that they didn't want, and they too went through the whole immigration issue. They were all pushed into the East End. They were all maltreated in different ways. Now they're with them, hating us.
But then, if you look at the referendum now, as Britain will be leaving the EU, it was down to immigration as well.
Yeah, the point is.
So what I'm trying to get at is, it's not necessarily against the fact that they don't like black people.
No, it is the culmination, the fact that the reason for they hate black people, and black people are a bunch. It is a common look. The thing is, when you have a common group, a group of people who together communally dislike another group, these people bunch together and then dislike another. Look, there are people who have no problems with black people living on their roads, black people doing the jobs with them, etc. But when you keep talking about it and you keep making it into an issue, it becomes an issue, even when it wasn't an issue before. And that's where we're at. Nigel Farage, and I don't like mentioning his name, but he's the best person I can give as an example, managed to use his party, which is a hate-filled party. They don't like foreigners, they don't like Chinese, they don't like this, they don't like that. They don't like visitors in their country. He managed to use that to bring up a dormant feeling that is in people. It is dormant. Look, they have managed to move away from the race issue, but he's brought it back.
But then, isn't there a very fine line between being nationalistic and being called a racist? Because if you're in your country, because we have to look at it from their point of view. Somebody that was born in London, grew up in London, they've known London all their lives, and then you see your surroundings changing, you have an issue. Now the governments have said that they have an issue with immigration. So therefore, as somebody that, if you're an English person and you see your surroundings changing, surely you have a right to voice your opinion. As long as it's not hate is not filled with hate.
Yeah, but I mean, there are offices and things. Do you know that there's immigration in Ghana? We have immigration in every country. When you're going somewhere, you're supposed to have a visa. It's not just this country. It's in America. It's everywhere. But I said, and I repeat, if you keep repeating that the reason of this is because we don't like this certain group of people. This certain group of people are the cause of all our problems. They take our jobs. They bring illness. They do this. They are killing themselves and will kill us. They are the thieves. They are the robbers. If you keep on at it, your neighbor who was your best friend will begin to suspect you. And this is where they bring division. Now, moving away from immigration or anything, an analogy is in a home where there's the mother, the father, and the 5 children. And so the father, but it turns out that some of them are stepchildren. So the father may just prefer his ones and not like his others. He is bringing division. They are the same color, they are the same religion, and they are in the same family. Now, this kind of thing is what's happening here. You have Britain, you have London. London is saturated with people from different countries, religion, creed, food, everything. So, and they're getting on fine. And then the government starts to say, some of the people amongst you are here illegally. Now, illegal people steal, kill, bring illness, do this, do that. And so it's being drummed into your head. Now, those people are from Africa. That is all. Africans are the black ones. That's it, identity. With us, our problem is you see the color before you see the person.
But then, Kiki, if surely, well, I did say earlier on that you have people from
Australia,
America, Australia, Canada, whatnot. But let's face it, the illegal immigrants are from the Caribbean, are from Africa, so of course they will be the targets.
No, illegal immigrants are from everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yes. However, when you talk about the illegal immigrants are from Africa, Caribbean, that is not true. My ancestors are from Africa, but I'm here. I'm here because I was born here, and
no,
so it is
I'm
with
not,
a lot
I'm
of
not
people.
Saying, I'm not saying
However,
the ones that
when
are born
you see
here.
me, when you
I'm not
see
saying
me,
the ones that are born here.
but if you see me,
right?
How do you know what my status is?
Well, that's why they will check with their Home Office. Oh,
it's a long process. By then, they've taken me somewhere. Maybe I have some speech impediment. I cannot speak. So then they, etc., etc. Maybe I can't read or write. So when you take me to the police station, I can't fill in a form.
But then do you believe immigration is a problem?
I believe immigration could be a problem if it is being made into a problem. Because, there are people here. Yes, go and check, take them quietly and do this sort of thing. But if you sit down and set targets and then start looking for people to take and start finding reasons why you have to take it, because you need to have 1,000 people a month to go, there we have a discussion, because that's not right. You are taking innocent people. You are not dealing with the people's individual problems and the reasons why they're here. You are not dealing with, you're just trying to get people out quickly. And then that's where we have somebody who goes to a funeral, born and bred here, goes to his father's funeral in Jamaica and can't get back on the plane to come here. Or gets here and is put in a detention center. He loses his job. There's a woman who lost her job, the nurse. I heard it on this same show where Idris was talking about it. They lost their job because she's a nurse. The way after doing all of these things, making them, she was actually arrested in work. She lost her job. She goes back after they found they'd made a mistake, and she can't get her job because somebody else has filled in the place. What happens there? This is all messing up people's lives for Target.
Absolutely.
It's Target.
Okay, it is Target, but many politicians still believe that to bring down immigrations into the thousands is still should be the government's plan, because immigration, people living here illegally, will have a massive impact on the country.
I agree.
We're taking a break. We'll come back and we'll talk more. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to Talk Africa with me, John Sewa. Our guest this morning is KIKI, candykisseih, social commentator, also a radio host on GN Radio. Now let's take a few messages on our Facebook page. This is from Joyce. Joyce is saying, we still need illegals in the UK because the British won't wake up at 4 a.m. to clean our offices, schools, hospitals, etc. There are various types of illegal immigrants, and most of them have ties in this country. This Tory government should bow their heads in shame. Joyce goes on to say that illegal immigrants are the most well-behaved people in this country. I think it's about time for us to withdraw from the Commonwealth because there's nothing in for our people. Do you agree with Joyce or you don't? You can go onto our Facebook page, GNTV. You can leave your comments on there. You can call in 0203 735 8820 or 0203 286 0185 and join the conversation. Now, Kiki, back on this, I just want us to wrap up on this, where I think a lot of people have come out, even people who are seen to be conservatives, are saying that this country, let's face it, the immigration institution is racist.
It is, without a doubt. It is so racist, it's off the scale. The problem, though, is because it's institutionalized, it is subtle and you don't really know. And things, you see, and they just target, they know they are so racist and they have studied and know where to take the low blows. So they go low and attack people who cannot help themselves, people who may need lawyers, etc. to help them. They know they don't have those. They target the illiterates. In this country, you have to be very careful. You have to read small print. You have to know how to survive where the upper hand is very tough. Very tough. And we should know our history. This is why we, black people, should know our history. We should know that a leopard will never change its spots. Therefore, you have to know the animal that you're with.
In 2018?
Yeah, 2018. I'm telling you this. Well, here is the Windrush.
I mean, well...
Here is the Windrush.
I do understand.
Here is evidence.
We're bound to see cases like this, but, to make a general statement like that...
It is not a general statement. Now, a leopard will never change its spots. It's just impossible. That is a fact. Now, in this country, there are good people. There are good, kind people, and there are people with conscience. So in all swathes of life, even in the Conservative Party, there will be good people. There are people who, for example, their parents, their grandparents, etc., handed down their conservatives, but they have a good soul. Therefore, they understand that what is happening is bad, and they will speak the truth.
So you're talking about the party, the government in power, the conservatives.
There's
not
conservatives.
necessarily
No. I'm not talking about all natives of England. No. Or Britain. No, I am talking about the Tory party. And I'm saying to you that the Tory party will never change their views about humans. They more treat their own lower classes. Who are we? Who are we when they treat us so bad? They treat their own people so badly. You cannot expect. These are a group of people who were the lords, the people who owned people. They owned everything. They owned the country, and they just share the country amongst themselves, and they just do whatever they want, and they've always done this. When you watch Parliament, just take one day, and every listener here who is listening now, take a day, one day. If you've never watched the Parliament before, take one day, go and watch BBC Parliament and watch the way they play. The Tories are on one side, the Lib Dems, the Labour, and all are on the other side.
SNP.
So an issue comes up, and you watch the reaction, the way that they deal with things, the way they heckle the Labour Party. Labour Party don't heckle them that
it's
way.
The same.
So this is the issue.
It's vice versa.
No,
it's
not the same. Watch them, and if you watch them, and you watch, and then you look at the animal kingdom, say some geographic program where the animals are there, you can see that the leaders, the ones who feel they're entitled, behave very differently towards the one that they feel that the ones they bully. An issue is out there. If the Labour Party, anyone behaved in this way, with all this Windrush issue that's going on, if it was the Labour Party, the Tories would rain down on the Labour Party. You would be shocked.
I agree.
And they're not raining down on them because they think what they did is wrong. They are raining down on them because they've seen a weakness that they should exploit. Labour Party and all there are others, the Green Party, Liberals and that, they will be complaining that these people have been heartless. They would dwell on the emotional side. Tories don't play that game.
No, I agree with you on that one,
Yeah.
because I think what's his name? Is it Kwesi Kwarteng?
Yeah.
The MP. I mean, when you hear him speak, he's just there's no emotion in the way he speaks, which a lot of people have criticized him for.
Kwesi Kwarteng, on one issue, I can say that he's not in the Tory party to do anything for any black people. That is not the
he said
reason.
himself.
He said himself. And I agree with him. He is a politician.
Yeah.
He has grown up. He's looked forward to become a politician. He's covering Spelthorne. I don't think there are many black people in Spelthorne. So for him, he's furthering his career and getting on with it. I know, and I can sense, because I've been on this earth for quite a while now, and I can see that Kwesi Kwarteng is going to be used as a shield and for the Tories, because it's a black issue. Come on, go and tell them.
I mean, he hasn't spoken. I mean, if you listen to what he's saying, he more or less reiterates what the government said.
That's
Nothing
what I'm
about his
He's
own
not there to
opinion.
No, but he's going to be trotted out and told, do this, do that, do that. The issue that you and I and the rest of the Ghanaian public have is he's got a Ghanaian name, and therefore how very dare him be speaking on behalf of the Tory party. But he's a Tory.
He's got a right to be Tory.
Yes, and this is what they,
no?
he's just towing the party line, So I think people should leave him alone and let him talk his nonsense and just, treat him like any other person, white, black, or whatever, alien, doing whatever he has to do and just get on with it.
Well, that's why we have Conservatives and Labour
and
Liberals and the Green Parties and the SNP. And one thing for sure is all governments have failed to tackle the immigration issue.
Yeah.
I'm sure if they were able to sort out this issue, we won't be where we are now. But that's not an excuse. Okay, now let's move on. Let's look at other stories trending across the continent. We have Idris Adishina on the line. Idris is an editor of Alternative Africa. We get most of our stories from Idris's publishing, okay, his website, Alternative Africa. So if you want to hear more stories, do go on there. Thank you for joining us this morning, Idris. And we try to stay away from Nigeria, but for some reason we cannot, Idris. There's a story that's been reported that the president of Nigeria might be impeached, Idris. I think we can Idris now. I know that we've got him on. Yes, he is on, but we cannot get his audio. So we're going to get Idris back on, talking about the president of Nigeria could be facing an impeachment. So we'll get Idris's take on that. Don't forget, you can go onto our Facebook page, GNTV UK, to join the conversation. You can also call in on 037358820 or 0203-286-0185. Okay, I believe we have Idris on air now. Thank you for joining us, Idris, this morning. Yes, I was saying that President Buhari could be facing an impeachment, Idris.
Yeah, he could be facing an impeachment. That is the beauty of democracy. The parliamentarians have been empowered by law to question all acts done by the presidency. They have been, by law, they have been the checks and balance on the executive. Yes, they invited him to come when he finishes his tour in Bauchi in the next 1 or 2, maybe tomorrow, today now. It is a 2-day working day, yesterday and today, so he could be recalled. He's been invited anyway, so it's I don't know whether he has accepted the invitation, because we had a similar situation yesterday where the IG of police, Ibrahim Idris, refused to attend the summon by the Senate on the ground that he was the president during his 2-day visit to Bauchi. That schedule has been read that now for him to appear on Wednesday, and he was seriously reprimanded that even if you are going to follow Mr. President on his tour, yeah, we know that is your duty. There is a moral obligation there to officially call the Senate President or the leader of the Senate on rights to tell them that, look, this is where I'm doing. But the context we are talking is that the President has been invited. If he survived the impeachment plot yesterday on the floor of the Senate, because they could not form a quorum to invoke that particular section, or because of the failure in security issues. But we'll see what happens when he appears in person.
We will come back to him being called very, very soon. But I just want us to talk about this a bit more. And the reason why he's being he might be impeached is because he approved of some amount of money which they bought an aircraft from the U.S. Government. However, he was supposed to go to the Senate to seek approval, but he went ahead and deposed the money and then went back to seek approval.
Yes, Jones, you see, it's very complicated. The reason why we are having this debate is because of the relationship between the House, the Executive, and the Legislature. Under normal circumstances where there is a robust relationship between them, where they see them as a partner in progress, we shouldn't be talking about this. If you read the memo sent to the President, he actually explained to the Senate exactly why he took that anticipatory approval decision, that the Senate, the appropriation, 2018 appropriation had been passed already. It's almost done already. And that was not captured in it because by then the United States refused to sell those combat aircraft to them. The U.S. has now agreed to do that, and we have given them a time frame to do that. And because he didn't want to miss it, he went ahead and gave an anticipatory approval. But again, the House, the leadership of the House is within a short distance to Mr. President. Mr. President could invite the Speaker and the Senate leader, President, to Aso Rock, where they can discuss this, and this is mutually agreed between the three of them, where they will give him the final approval to go ahead because of the condition or the limit of time given by the United States, and ask him to send that letter to the House. They didn't do that. About 2-3 weeks ago, the three of them were at the villa with Mr. President, where they had the party, where they discussed that we didn't know. If Mr. President didn't know about this before, to quickly hint them or write them a letter, but this is because the relationship between the two of them is not smooth. Because if you go back to Nigerian history, yes, we had on the floor yesterday Senator Sonny who was questioning them that, look, Goodluck Jonathan, the immediate past president, had the same thing. We drew money from the foundation account with that approval. There was no problem on the Senate. President Obasanjo, ex-president Obasanjo, did the same thing yesterday. Made something similar to that with that appropriation by the House, and nothing happened. But again, it is because of relationship. And special approval is normally democracy. where there's a relationship between the president, executive, and the legislature. But in this case, no. That is why you see what is purely political, and it is moral too. If you hosted the Senate and the leadership of the House about a fortnight ago, and you still did not tell them there, only for you to formally write them and be looking as if you are too democratic. No, that is not democracy. Democracy goes beyond just mere writing a letter and following the due process. Democracy also includes the ability to settle cases amicably amongst yourselves without having to resort to international disgrace we are looking at in Nigeria. And again, don't forget that the senator who is perceived to be a black sheep in the APC caucus is facing serious problem now with the police. We will not go to that, but the president has always said, look, the issue between you and the police has nothing to do with the executive. Sort yourself out. So I understand that the Senate is very angry that if one of them could be treated that way, then it could be a pointer that any one of them is not there. And don't forget, the Senate president is also going through series of trials and the CCT, that's a tribunal for declaration of assets, is really a long-running battle. The executive never wanted the Senate president to be president of the Senate because of problems. Now he's there and it's been a long-running battle. It's almost 3 years now of crisis between the leadership of the Senate and the Nigerian executive. So you see more of this, and the impeachment is not a thing we don't already know.
Okay. All right. Let's move on, because we've got a few stories that we want to touch on with regards to in Nigeria. Whatever the case may be, the president has gone. Has not followed through. Has gone against the constitution, rather. Now, there's another story, and I want to come to you, Kiki, on this one. Again, the Nigerian president Buhari. It hasn't been a good week for Buhari, and as we all know, Nigeria's president election is just run around the corner. Nigerian lawmakers voted to invite President Muhammadu Buhari to the House of Representatives to discuss the spate of killings in central Nigeria. Now, this is to do with the herdsmen killing people. A few days ago, they went into a church and killed. I think I was told that now it's moved on to 17 people have been reported to have died. Yesterday we spoke to Idris about this issue, the security aspect in Nigeria, and how it looks as if President Buhari himself has failed on that aspect.
I think it is a big issue. It is a massive issue, and if Buhari is not aware that this is happening, then he should have been aware quite a while ago from now, because everybody is talking about it. Any Nigerian you know is talking about it, how. And I read somewhere where I think it's one of these ex-senators, Olufemi Kayode, actually mentioned that he felt that Buhari was in love with the Archbishop of Canterbury here, and so was so busy here that he wasn't aware that people were being killed, that, you know, the headsmen are entering into towns and villages, shooting people, killing people. And, you know, to go and kill people in churches, what is happening? Is there a religious war going on? Is it? And if that is the case, this is what we're trying to deal with in Saudi and all of the, you know, the jihads, etc., etc. So now this is very serious in Nigeria. It is not a today matter, as they say.
Yeah.
This has been going on for a long time. What is happening? And the people being killed are not people on a war-to-war combat. These are innocent people in churches, people on their way to school, people on their way to market. What is happening in Nigeria? And if Buhari is not aware of it, he should have been by now, that something should be done about it. I agree, they should sack them all.
And I understand that yesterday 7 people were killed, and I'll get Idris's reaction on that. But then also, Idris, lawmakers who are inviting Buhari to come and answer a few questions are also saying that they want security chiefs to be sacked.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's as I said before, it's all political. You all know that it's political. to look at the tone of the thing is political. Yes, in a responsible administration where you have a continuous killing like that, an unabated killing like this, the next thing you do is that look at if the security chiefs are incompetent enough to protect the nation. After all, when the president came in, the first thing he did was to start the security chiefs because of the antecedent in the past government. If they could not stop Boko Haram then holding territory in Nigeria, I don't think there's any moral justification of them to remain in office. That is the normal situation and the reasonable situation. But the situation having in Nigeria is not normal. It's very abnormal. Even having Nigeria is beyond just professionalism. Every area, everything you see in Nigeria is political, particularly now that the election is around the corner. Again, let me come to KIKI by saying that the president is in Nigeria, is in London here, romancing the Archbishop, not aware that people are being killed in Nigeria. No, the president is aware that people are being killed. It's just unfortunate that we are still where we are still in Nigeria. I'm happy that you made an allusion to it, that it's not just now. It's not an age-long crisis. It's not a civil war. But yesterday, the National Executive Council, the Federal Executive Council came up with, most we are going to see that probably the solution to this issue, the movement of cattle around Nigeria and in across West African countries. This is where the biggest problem is.
Okay. Idris, just hang on for us. We're taking another break. When we come back, we'll look at other stories as well. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to Talk Africa. You can watch us live on Sky 291. I must remind you, from the 1st of May, we'll be moving from 291 to 182, Sky Channel 182. We are live on Facebook as well. You can go onto our Facebook page and join the conversation. Leave your comments on there. Or you can call into the studio 0203 735 8820. In the studio, we have candykisseih, social commentator, also a radio host, and we have on the phone Idris Adishina, editor of Alternative Africa. Let me just give you a couple of minutes, Idris, to run up what you were saying before we took our break.
Yes, what I was saying is that the situation in Nigeria is despicable, yes, but you have to call it democracy too. This is one of the challenges of democracy. We are almost have their say, whatever you do, the president must come and explain. Yes, holding accountable. But an issue of killing Nigeria is an age-long problem. We only be hoping that the solution came up yesterday by the executive council, that is the chair, who was chaired by the vice president, and have all the governors in attendance, apart from the Christian, those who are hosting Mr. President, have agreed that from next few months now, we are putting a ban, they are outlawing the movement of cattle across Nigeria, starting from the 5 states where we are having problem now. They are settling for ranching, which is the fact that is the global accepted way of keeping your animal.
Idris, I just want to ask you, has this happened before in the history of Nigeria, where a certain president could be facing an impeachment, also being called in by the legislators to come in and answer a few questions?
Oh, yes, and after they had a similar problem in the office. Obasanjo was almost removed from office when there was such a terrible crisis in Nigeria. Don't forget in 2001, we had a case in Indi in Nigeria where the entire village was leveled on the order of Mr. President, which was Obasanjo then, because of incidents with care soldiers. And in that accident in 2001, the wife of the senior brother of the then immediate past general of Nigerian Army, John Kambani, was still in pregnancy. So all this case became a problem in Nigeria, and Obasanjo was almost removed from office. But again, this is just a process to explain to invite Mr. President. Everywhere in the world, the president must explain some few things to the parliament. I don't see it as a serious thing. If you come to the parliament, they not invoke the impeachment order now, section of the constitution. They merely invited him to come and address the House now. After all, when he's presenting his budget, he does the same thing. He addresses the House, the 2 chambers of the court. So it's nothing political or something we should read money into. But of course, yes, there's a process. That's something going on in the country. That's why they invited Mr. President.
All right. Now, there's one more story that I want us to touch on. We kind of spoke about this as well yesterday, funny enough, because it also happened in Ghana. More than 160 children have been rescued from a baby factory and 2 unregistered orphanages in Nigeria, main city, which is Lagos, an official has said. Some of the babies and children had been sexually abused. It is not uncommon for Nigerian authorities to raid baby factories. In some cases, unmarried pregnant women and promised healthcare. Unmarried pregnant women are promised healthcare only for their children to be taken away. In others, other women too were raped and also impregnated. Now, yesterday we spoke about this, Kiki. There was a story in Ghana which a young lady went to give birth in a private hospital only to find out that her baby was being sold.
Did she get the baby back?
Well, the police got involved and they were able to arrest the culprits.
This is becoming serious. There is a problem here in this country where a lot of women are having problems having babies, especially in the Nigerian community. So they get married and then the babies don't come. So they go back to Nigeria and then they come back with babies. One wonders, sometimes you think you're adopting, but it's illegal. You think you've had a baby, it's all over the place. I think it's very terrible that you could go into a hospital, have a baby, and then come out without the baby because it's been stolen. I believe that the nurses and all the people connected in the hospital know about these. It's a business where they promise people babies, and so you have the baby, they steal it, it's all planned, and then you come out without a baby, you call the police. By the time the police get there, the baby's gone. Now, children also who are mostly underage or just on the cusp of from underage into adulthood are also being cajoled, tricked, teased, bullied, raped into getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And then they have the baby, and they don't really want these babies anyway. They're too young to deal with them. So these people will take the babies and sell them. And I hear they sell them into other countries.
Child trafficking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's even the worst story where their baby, they go into some other countries where they get these young women, they kidnap them, bring them into Nigeria, there's this story about just one man raping all these girls at different points, to be sure, like a stud or something, and then they have these babies, and then they sell them. So these girls are like, just to get pregnant, that is bad. And whose children are these? And something should be done about it. There's so much evil in the world now. It's just out of control. But for some people, it's a business.
Let me get Idris's thoughts on this quickly, and then we'll move on. Very briefly, Idris, with this story that we're discussing here. As Kiki said earlier on, in 2012, a UK judge raised concerns about desperate childless parents being caught up in the baby selling scams in Nigeria. Idris.
Yeah, it's not in Nigeria alone. I know the station refers to Nigeria. The people who sold the baby in Ghana are not Nigerians, they are Ghanaians. The issues of sex slaves in the UK, in the US, they are not Nigerians. It's a different part of the world. These are criminal elements in the world who profit, who masquerade as orphanage. Okay. The problem is that there is a market for it. It's a criminal, there are criminal elements around the world. Trafficking to UK, to Asia, to everything. It's the same thing as we are talking about Nigeria. These people are criminal. No other name for criminal. Taking advantage of the vulnerable in the society and to further their own business interests. It's purely business, and it's purely about money. There's nothing more than that. And it's not about Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, or US or UK alone. It's a global phenomenon. So what we need to do is that we disrupt the supply chain. That is where the problem is. Because there is a supply chain. That is why if there is a supply chain in anything in the world, you find criminal elements who will under the cotton of the law, abuse the law to do the same thing. We need to do more globally now. The police in every country need to be more aware, and the people must fill the police with information. This is where it's very critical.
As Idris said that obviously there is a supply chain. But Idris, before I let you go, I just want to get your thoughts on this story here. The West African nation, let me just read it for you. Africa in 2018 World Press Freedom Index. And it says Ghana best, Eritrea worse. The West African nation of Ghana has the continent's best atmosphere for media personnel, a report by Reporters Without Borders has said. Let me take your thoughts on this, Idris, because when it comes to the free press across the continent, this is something that is not common, although we've been able to progress from being under military rule, the freedom of press. Idris.
Yeah, I can see a very broad smile on your face because Ghana has come first now. They've become Eritrea. You see, because Ghana is not in an election now, everything will be better. So media in Ghana. But when the election comes, we know everywhere in the world is always problematic. But seriously, we always saluted the Ghana president for what he's able to do in that country, for the kind of posture he has given us, he's giving us encouragement that things will be better. Yes, Ghana was in some mass before. Now that an improvement. So, but it's natural. I don't know of any political prisoner, media prisoner in Nigeria now. But we have the indexes, we have the findings, we don't have it. That is what they are published. Good luck to Ghana. And for those who are first finding at the bottom, those who find themselves at the bottom of the index, what we can do is to urge them to please, because the media are simply doing their job. That is their job, the job to inform, and it is guaranteed under every constitution of the world. Do your job, hold the government accountable. When the police are keeping something, media are expected to find it out. It is not that we are trying to impinge anybody's business. That's the job that is entrusted to us by the Constitution. So we should be allowed to do that job without any fear of intimidation. Good luck to Ghana, and please do more, because we are still finding the extra 23 something.
Thank you very much, Idris, for joining us this morning. That was Idris Adesina, editor of Alternative Africa. Kiki, your take on this story?
Anything where Ghana is king first, I get excited, because that's what the whole thing about living is about. My country is the best. However, I mean, that's what democracy, that's the meaning of democracy, if people can. However, I am, even though, yes, people are free to talk and everything, I think content, the whole journalistic thing, sometimes you read, the newspaper and it's worrying. Someone said a man killed himself and ran away. It was a headline. I'm like, what? He killed himself. He's dead, and he ran away. So those are the things that worry me. But where it says Eritrea is the worst, and then it says Eritrea will be the worst if it's in a dictatorship.
Yeah.
All the news is going to be about the German or whatever the leader is called, and that is interesting.
And Egypt as well.
And Egypt, we have people. Journalists are in prison, and we're discussing those issues now. So it is worrying. I think people, when you talk of freedom of press, even here in this country, how free is freedom? Because sometimes people get upset because the reporters say too much. Sometimes the reporters saying things gets other people into trouble. Sometimes the reporters say too much, they lie. Sometimes, you just don't know where to draw the line. I think with us in Ghana especially, a lot of politicians own a lot of the media houses.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem that the story has also established.
Okay.
That a lot of politicians own the radio stations.
Yeah, the radio stations, and some of the radio stations. I mean, Ghana is a country that has about 800 languages and dialects and whatnot, and yet the medium, what that we speak, should be English, so that everybody understands, and yet there's tree all over the place. Half the people don't understand it in my area, etc. And so the news is a bit stilted, but it's out there, and it's whether you want to hear it or not.
Let's take our first caller. Hello, good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello.
Yeah, your line is fake. Good morning.
Good morning. Is that Kofi Ali?
This is Kofi Ali.
Good morning, Kofi. What would you like to say this morning?
Yes, I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the wonderful job you are doing, yourself and Kiki and everyone on the platform.
Thank you.
Yes, I also want to use this opportunity to tell our Nigerian brothers. They sent a post out that there was an ECOWAS summit on, the farmers, the Fulani cattle rearers. But when you read the article, you discover the Vice President of Nigeria, who is supposed to be a professor, talking as if they are ECOWAS. How should the Nigerian president, a vice president, be talking on behalf of Nigeria by a summit, a meeting they organize in their own Nigeria, and saying that they are discussing ECOWAS? And is the Nigerian president or vice president the president of ECOWAS? We don't want this kind of news. It's misleading. If they have problem with migration or the cows realize that they feel is leading to regional, their country's problem, they should deal with it in their country. The criminals that are causing the problem across West Africa are Nigerians, both of them.
Kofi, we're not discussing that today. I think I'll speak to the producers to try and get you to come in, because I know that yesterday the producer did come up with a story that we're planning to talk about it on Monday, Kofi. Kofi, are you still there?
News, and it's seriously misleading. Okay. I'll end up here. If we have regional issue, ECOWAS must be ECOWAS. Nigeria is not ECOWAS. We need to start reminding them.
All right, Kofi, thank you. Thank you very much. That was Kofi Ali. You can also call in on 0203 735 8820. 0203 735 8820 to share your thoughts. Now, what we were talking about with regards to the index on the freedom of press. Yes. It is worrying when you tend to realize that majority of the radio stations are owned by politicians, which in a way can be misleading as well, because you don't get the truth. There's always an agenda, and that is a problem in itself.
Well, I mean, the lack of transparency also is a bias, because I mean, if I owned a media outlet and I want to give my message across, it's going to be just what I think, and that is what I think is not universal. It's not what everyone else thinks, and it's not, so, and it cannot be argued, because I'm thinking this is my news. So that is one thing. Also, in this day and age, we're trying to deal with false news. We're trying to fake news. And so fake news is out there, and you sometimes you can't decipher between the two. So there has to be a streamlining. And when I say streamline, it's not that people should be muzzled or we shouldn't talk about everything freely enough. But we should be careful also the sort of news that we send out, because it has to be educational, it has to be informative, and it has to be clear. And half the time you have the BBC has now is in our areas and it's doing BBC Pidgin.
Yeah,
I don't
language,
understand Pidgin.
Pidgin language. Well, majority of
people do,
especially
okay.
From especially from the West Africa, we speak the Pidgin language.
So that's also good, and if it's going to go out there for people, so that there is a balance of news,
But then again, there's a lot of media outlets out there. If you want to do your own research, you should be able to do so. Everything you can go on social media right now. But we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll touch on a few stories and we'll look at our main topic of the day. We'll be back shortly.
Majority of you only pay attention.
Welcome back to the program. We've just been told somebody was trying to call us from Nigeria. You can do so, okay? You can call in. You'll be able to get through to share your thoughts on what we're discussing here this morning. Now, let's move on to our next topic. And this is to do with the athlete, the South African athlete, Caster Semenya. There's been a new law that's come in. A new law, or a new rules from the IAAF with regards to women athletes who have a lot of the men, testosterone in their body, and they're changing the rules, and this will affect Semenya, as an athlete herself. Now, I think 2009. She did. They did some tests on her, and I think her South African coach at the time lied about the test. However, what the outcome was didn't come to public. Okay, and a lot of people have questioned that. But now, as it's been reported, that women who have that testosterone in their body will have to go on medication if they still want to compete in athletics. So I just want us to touch on it briefly because she wasn't happy. She clearly went on Twitter to voice out her opinion.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the thing is, it is naturally high to testosterone levels will have to race against men.
Yeah.
So we will have high testosterone women running with men in the same race. That is interesting.
If they refuse to go on medication.
Yeah, but
to bring it down.
Why would you go? Your testosterone levels are what gives you the energy and the strength to run and beat the others. So if you lower it, will you be able to run? Or if you lower it, you are on the level with the women anyway.
Yes, and that's the issue here. Whereas some women, some elite athletes, have a high testosterone compared to their counterparts. So
the question is, if you are your testosterone levels are high, is it because of the training and the rigorous training and the experiences that you go through in regards to preparation for the race that raises your testosterone levels? Or is it a natural thing within you that makes you have those levels and that makes you then tip into the men's race?
Well, you've answered the question yourself, because if it is a natural testosterone, however, I think the percentage is found in men, and that level of testosterone found in women helps the athlete in terms of endurance and speed. Now, compared to other women who don't have it, it's an advantage to the women who do. So, to be at par with everybody, that's what they're saying, that you need to go on medication to lower it before you compete.
Would you want to lower the... You see, I
think it's all about level playing field here.
It is level playing field, but then, you see, I'm a woman, and unfortunately, my testosterone levels are naturally high. Therefore, then, and this is an example, I'm not saying I am, so nobody should go about saying that. But if you know, the example is, so I'm a woman, so I've got naturally high testosterone levels. I love athletics, and that is where I excel. I want to be first.
Absolutely.
So it is my advantage.
No, but then if it's as high as men and you're able to sustain your long distance running for such a long period of time, then you should be competing with the men, because you have an advantage over the women. That's why that's why the new rule is saying that you have to go on medication to reduce it. So it will be level playing field for everybody.
Which then makes an argument for the Jamaican runner to start running with cheetahs or...
Who is that? Usain Bolt?
Usain Bolt. Because his levels may be even higher than normal men.
No, we have to stress here is down to a long distance running. So it's not short distance
Well,
sprints.
okay, so who
From
runs long?
400 meters, 800 meters, 1,500 meters.
800 meters, yeah.
Yes.
So now Caster Semenya,
Yeah.
who is South African,
Yes, she's South African, yes.
She's not happy about this law because she wants to run with women and beat them every time.
She is a woman. You see, I think back in 2009 when she broke the world record in 800 meters, there were questions.
There
as
were
to
questions.
Her
And
physique.
that's why I was coming to,
Yeah.
because with a girl like her, a person like her, she doesn't look like a normal woman. And I'm not talking about breasts or anything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about actual physical hard features. If you look at her face, she looks like a man.
Which I think the test that because she's done a few tests, and I think the IAAF bringing in this rule must prove that there are certain athletes who have high percentage of testosterone and is to their advantage and is unfair on the rest. And I think, to be fair, when I first read this article, I thought that's a bit harsh, because all the events that this new rule is against, these are the events that she participates in.
Yeah.
And she has really excelled. But then they've given conditions. If she takes the medication to lower her testosterone, then she will be okay. And Caster has gone on to Twitter and she's gone, I am 97% sure you don't like me, but I'm 100% sure I don't care. And that's her stance on that. What does the rule say? The rules for athletes who have differences of sexual development apply to 400 meters, 400 meter hurdles, 800 meters, and 1,500 meters. 1 mile races and combined events over the same distances. However, 100 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters hurdles are exempt, as are races longer than 1 mile and field events. So those are the events that will essentially be affected by the new rule, which will kick in from the 1st of November. So we'll see what happens. I don't think we'll see Semenya racing with men. I doubt it. And I think after 2009, it really affected her, because the whole world was just looking at her, because the way she ran the 800 meters was unbelievable. She burst into the scene and all of a sudden took the world by storm. And then there was so much attention and attraction on her that people started to ask questions, to the point where her own coach, South African, did a test, and I think she was made to believe that it was just a usual random doping test. However, it was a test to find out whether she was a man or a woman, and everything just blew out. And I think it had a massive impact on her, because since then she wasn't quite the same. So we'll see what happens.
Over history, and I'm always bringing that in. Over history, in 1936, for example, a Polish runner, Stella Walsh, was and another one, America's Helen Stevens. They were men. They were actual men, imposters, and they ran against the women and won. And then so it was found out in the Berlin Olympics that these were men. And then in 1938 there was this person, Dora Raxton, who was
identified as male.
And she had to take her gold medal. She had to return it because she was a man but was brought up as a woman, and so her coach thought that she would, I mean, this is all terrible. Now, maybe we're coming back to the Caster Semenya, where, I'll tell you something in history. Years ago, this is about hundreds of years ago.
Okay, and you were born then?
No, but I'm saying in history. That's why I said, I didn't say in my experience. Years ago, there was the reason why, when a pope is being appointed, there's a particular chair that he sits on. And this chair has a space underneath. And one of the cardinals has to put his hand underneath the Pope. There's a hole in the chair. So when you sit down, the cardinal has to put his hand underneath and test to see whether you have testicles.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, the reason is that there was a fake pope. That pope, there was a pope who was a woman. And in those days, all popes were men. So this test was done. Now, this is a primitive type of test, and I don't know if it's been done up till now, but that seat is still there in the Vatican to test that this pope is male.
Okay.
Now, if it is important that the women should be women to run a race, and we're doing this Castor Semenya and changing the law so that testosterone is the thing, why don't you just ask her to take her clothes off and let's see? Come on, babe. Are you really a babe?
Well, what about this? Let's look at it. Let's look at the bigger picture, because we cannot move away from it. Now there's a gender fluidity, and I think we've even spoken about this on one sports show where we said, okay, so what will happen if this happens in athletics? And clearly, I think the IAAF have moved forward, looked into the future, and realized we could have potential cases in Olympics. So this in itself is an outline. If you're a transgender and you feel as though you need to race with women, then you need to go by this rule.
I mean, this is where there is a gray area in this. The transgender people have just confused us and brought in a gray area. You're right. Do you then decide this testosterone test then decides that, okay, fine, you are in the men's camp, so go and run with them? Or, because you see, there could be hordes of females who are like males now, but their testosterone level is still the female level. Are they?
Then they will run with the females.
Yeah, so do you think there are going to be athletes who, for the fact that they're transgender, want to run with the men even when their hormone levels are low?
Absolutely. If it's a transgender and then they see themselves as women and they want to be seen as women, be labeled as women, they will want to run with the women. No, but
I'm talking about the women. If there are women who are now men,
okay,
but their testosterone levels are the women's
level.
They'll
run with the women, They run with the women.
What is this confusion? Don't run then.
They run with the women. But at least there's a rule that everyone must follow. All right, now let's turn our attentions to a report, an African initiative. Let's take a quick listen to this. This is to do with teachings that's happening in Ghana. We'll take a listen to that. When we come back, we'll be treating our main topic of the day.
In Ghana, it is estimated that between 800,000 and 2 million children are victims of exploitation. That's almost 10% of the total population. This deep-rooted problem is difficult to combat, but there are solutions. They come from the increasing number of organizations working in the field to persuade families to find other ways to send their children to school.
It's all about attitudes. It's all about behavior. It's all about socialization process. So it's not something that you can help people to change. So you have to sit down with them. You have to explain to them the need to support their children to go to school. They need to treat their children as children. And when they understand, then they will help you they will help themselves to solve their problem. So we are not here to accuse them. We are here to draw their attention, to see the problem from far.
Sometimes the children themselves take the message to the streets, breaking down taboos and bringing the subject out into the open.
Why won't you ask her why she is crying?
You, the mother, you should ask her.
When there is a problem, you can't face it.
Adelaide, what's wrong with you? Come closer to me. I'm talking to you. Do you think I'm mad?
Adelaide, what is happening? Raise up your head and let me look at you. Talk. When I was selling the fish, a man said he would buy some, so I should go with him to his house.
What happened next?
When I went with him, he sexually assaulted me. So you went to the house with that man? It's a taboo.
She's such a bad girl. Do you sell in the man room?
On this beach, just a few meters away, children work for local fishermen. They are a cheap, uncomplaining source of labor and are ready to do their master's bidding. The problem has become so widespread that the 12 staff working at the International Needs Ghana NGO devote their time entirely to helping these youngsters avoid exploitation by the fishermen.
They use a lot of the kids, both in the sea and also outside, on the shore, because they use the kids as they go in fishing to help them take out some water from the canoe. And when they come to, they help them to carry the fish or their catch from the boat to the shore. They just give them a token. You know, they are not on any pay, which is very high for them to pay, the fishermen to pay. As for the kids, any token they are satisfied with or some few fish, they are okay with it. That's why they use these children most.
However meager their earnings, it may be all the family has to get by on. Far too often when a child is not able to work, the family loses a small but vital source of revenue. The main challenge facing an organization such as Angela's is to help parents find alternative sources of revenue that leave their children free to attend school. The parents receive financial aid to pay their children's school fees or have access to microloans to help them set up new revenue-earning activities.
When my child went to school, to compensate the aid he has been giving to me, I'm now roasting garlic, and I go to the farm to sell it and to get some more income.
The association keeps an eye on the family's changing fortunes. A monitor regularly meets the parents to discuss what has worked and what hasn't. It isn't always easy convincing parents, and sometimes even their children, that an education is the best guarantee of a better life as an adult. In Uganda, where 40,000 children still work in the country's tea plantations, the media have joined a campaign against child labor. The Voice of Turo is a very popular radio station in the west of the country. The station's presenters often address Uganda's employers and unions directly, calling on them to put an end to child labor.
Today, we have come to tell you that the number has gone up to 365. These children have been taken away from the tea chambers, from the outgrowers, and are now in school studying.
ILO helps a lot when to put the program on the radio. Everybody listened, the parents, the guardians, and the children themselves.
Thanks to the work of NGOs, the media, and international institutions across the continent, more and more children are returning to school. This is a lesson in optimism and proof that mentalities can be changed. According to World Bank estimates, there are more than 10 million jobs available for trained technicians in Africa. But there are no takers. For want of technical skills, many millions of young Africans are sitting on their hands. The African Union's Commission for Human Development agrees and intends to boost technical and vocational training.
When you talk about youth unemployment here in Africa, we tend to think that means finding work as a civil servant or being someone's boss. That's why our policy for technical education and vocational training is insisting on a change of mindset. Young people must understand that when they choose a training course, they can also become an employer and create jobs. The young person will be able to pride himself on telling himself that he too will be an employer one day. It's important to bear that in mind.
Education ministers gathered in Addis Ababa for the first meeting of the Committee for Technical and Professional Education overwhelmingly supported the African Union's position. To prove that actions speak louder than words, 10 young Africans chosen from across the continent for their entrepreneurship presented their own projects during a full assembly, after which they were distinguished at an award ceremony. The awards are just the beginning.
These awards are very important because it's a demonstration of the paradigm shift in provision of technical and vocational education and training in Africa, because this is what is going to make the biggest difference in making the African youth bulge become an economic, demographic, and social dividend. This is what will enable our young people to get the skills they need, not just to look for jobs, because many are jobless even as it is, but actually to become job creators.
We met one of the award winners. The Salam College was founded in the suburbs of Addis Ababa. For the past 20 years, the school has been providing technical and professional training with a clear social mission. Most of the students find employment on graduating. Others are determined to set up their own businesses.
I
decided to take this professional training course because it interested me and because I want to show that women can work just as well as men in every kind of job. When I leave the school with my qualifications, I would like to set up in business repairing cars. I'm learning mechanical maintenance for heavy goods vehicles and earth-moving machines. When I've graduated, I would like to work for a while in a company, but after that I want to set up my own garage, God willing.
Established in 1989 by the Ethiopian NGO Village des Orphelins, the Salam College was initially intended to provide the village orphans with the technical and professional skills required to find work. The school was a resounding success and soon had to cater for demand from young people from across the region. A lot has changed at Salam in the past 20 years. When it was founded, the school had 19 students. Now, the 70-strong teaching staff at Salam provides free education for 430 students.
From the beginning till now, there are a lot of progress in Salam. Previously, Salam have started the training with the simple welding technology, but now we have 11 training streams engaged. That the trainings have an accreditation from the Ministry of Education from level 1 to level 4.
Thanks to partnerships with companies such as Volvo, the Salam College now has the resources it needs to go to the next level, without losing its unique social dimension. Its most illustrious former students now teach at the school, while others work in the Salam College workshop, making parts for clients.
I was starting here to study before 3 years ago by metal engineering production management, and I'm level 4 students. And then, I just complete the whole 3 years to study all the courses that I have to finish and to get a COC exam. That means the national assessment of the country. It's have exams in each level. So I just done all the levels. And then, I just graduated from this Salam Technical and Vocational Center. And now I start working in this CNC machine.
Hundreds of young Ethiopians are in competition for a place at the school. True to their mission, the college directors are keen to make sure female candidates get their chance to work in technical trades.
We are giving attention for the females because in Ethiopia, most of the time females are staying in home. But now, these days, we are trying to insist women to come to in front and to have this technical knowledge. And we are working on that.
Here in Addis Ababa, at the African Union meeting, the awards for the handful of pioneers may act as a catalyst for other professional and technical training initiatives. That, at least, is the declared intention of the AU Commission, convinced that skills kill youth unemployment.
That's a good thought. It would be good to continue doing this kind of thing because the publicity is very good for raising the profile for TVET and also for young people to know that these opportunities exist. So if the resources are available, really such competitions will become a way of working.
In Kenya, the DRC, Senegal and Botswana, success stories like the Salam College are increasingly common across Africa. They are often the result of young people's initiatives to find a way out of unemployment. They are the tiny acorns that grow into mighty oaks, mobilizing the continent's economic and political players.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay.
Welcome back to the program. Now let's take a few messages on our Facebook page and then we'll move on to our main topic of the day. This is from Anna Mary Grant. Anna Mary Grant is saying terrible news about the killings. Elsie Ojida. No, it's Oji. Is it Ojija? Ojija. Elsie Ojija is saying security must be stepped up. Very sad to hear about these killings in Nigeria. And then Anna Mary Grant, Candy, Femi Fani Kayode's explanation may not be far-fetched at all. The disconnect between some leaders of countries and their security heads is terrifying. Winnie Ajua Win is saying, Ni Ananti, why don't you explore this too? Okay, keep your messages coming. Let's take one more message and then we'll move on. And this is to do with the IAAF's new rule that is to kick in from the 1st of November. This is from Joyce. Joyce is saying, Semenya is naturally a woman. If it's not permitted to take any drugs to enhance her performance, it's unfair to expect her to take drugs to hinder her. She's worked hard to get where she is, and she shouldn't be penalized for that. She is how God intended. The rule should apply to all events. But Semenya is not one of those transgender cases. Okay, keep your comments and thoughts coming in. Now then, let's move on to our main topic of the day. The exploitation of women or girls by men in powerful situations. Why is it unspoken of? I'm sure this is a global issue, but as Africans, we're looking at it from the African perspective. And Kiki, I would like to hear your take on it. You can also call in on 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. Kiki.
Yeah, it is true. It is a global issue. It is also true that a lot of people in power take advantage of the weaker group. So, here's a man who may be obsessed with sex. He sees that he has more power over the younger generation, so he preys upon it. It is terrible. The truth of the matter is, when these things come out, sometimes it's because of poverty, sometimes it's because of time, sometimes it's because of shame. The parents, the guardians don't pursue it to the end. And even when it is pursued, it is still not dealt with. Of course, in America now, we've got Bill Cosby, who has been thrown in jail, or about to be. Or whatever.
Has been found guilty.
Guilty over doing that. The people at the time were young. I'm a little bit baffled as to why there are people in power in that country who people have blamed or accused of behaving as such, and they have not been put in prison or even gone to court. There is this other journalist. Is it a journalist? There's another guy. I mean, he was in my mind this morning, and then I've totally forgotten about him now, his name. But he also did the same thing years ago, having relations or being in relationships with younger people because of his power and status. And
I think you're talking about Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. Harvey Weinstein, right now, he has been removed. It's not him I meant, but Harvey is also in my mind.
Yes.
And he, although he has been shamed, he has been sacked from his position, he's lost business, and everyone has come out, he is not in court. He is not being put in prison. I mean, but he is, the disparity and the balance of these things are different. So we move away from America.
Yeah.
And even when we come to here, it's the same thing. We have had men in government who have preyed upon children they haven't actually been sugar daddies as such, but they have used their power, their position to prey upon younger people in homes, people in, lesser situations. They wouldn't do it to their friend's child, but they would do it to someone, a poor person, someone who's vulnerable, basically. And you hear about it 10, 20 years down the line, or even after the person is dead. People know about it, but nothing happens. We have the Jim Savile. He also did all of these things, went into hospital, sick children.
But then, especially when it comes to Africa, people don't actually come out. The victims don't come out. And let's say, for example, in the working area, you don't tend to hear people come out. Oh, okay, maybe the boss or the supervisor, who it may be, because of their position and my position, they try to get me to do certain things which I'm against. But we here we get people talking about it. But
no,
it seems to be the norm.
No, even here, it took a while for people to come out. It took quite a long time for people to come out, even here. And in Africa, they don't come out because they are the poor ones. They are the ones who, you see, there are different classes of humans, and everyone knows where their position is. So if I want to better myself, because I know that where I am, there's no chance of movement unless this person, instead of someone being a mentor and it's a clean-cut relationship and helping you to be, they want their pound of flesh. And so you would close your eye and suffer this and let it pass so that you get what you want. Sometimes you even don't. At the end of it, he'll say, sorry, my boss says I can't give you that job, or something, So meanwhile, he has done, untold things to you, and you are forever going to regret it. Why people go through that is purely financial. It's poverty. It's a sugar daddy. It is financial. Who wants an old man? Even I, an older girl, I don't want an old man unless he's fit and happy and healthy and rich. I don't want him. So, if a young girl is going out with an older guy, there is an agenda. Both are looking for something.
Yes. That's what I was just about to get to now, because especially, it's not just Africa alone. You see it all over the world.
It's worldwide. It happens here, right here. It's worldwide. Not everyone is doing it. That's another thing that one has to be careful not to do a moesha on. But people do it, and it's always because of a reason. It's either poverty, it's either career, and the man is also, the perpetrator is also doing it for another reason totally entirely.
But then there's a difference, isn't there? There's the ones that an older man will have a relationship with a younger lady, but then when it comes to the working environment, and I think this is where the issue is, the working environment, the fact that he is or she is the person in charge, and you can't say nothing. She don't make any advanced movements towards you.
You could,
but then you end up losing your job.
Well, this is why it's money. Then again, you come to it's money, because if I stand up to it and say no, I don't. But the problem, what is terrible, is that I will lose my job and he will still carry on doing his job. Whether if I refuse his advances, he's going to find ways to make my life miserable. If I accept his advances, it's a hit and miss whether I will get to what I want or not. But he will definitely get what he wants. And then if I report him, the process, and you see, the process after you've reported him is where the problem is. One of the problems is now everyone knows. Then the blame. Everyone is going to blame me because I wear mini skirts to work, because maybe I giggle too much, because I'm being provocative, because it is never his fault. You have to prove that it was his fault. And it's always difficult. You can't. Because it's his word against yours. He's a supervisor. He's going to say, no, it's because she was late. And I mentioned it to her. And then she got upset and is now blaming me for what I did. No, it's because this. No, it's never. This is a dangerous guy. And he wants to take advantage of me. Please save me. This is why women should ask for safety in whatever sphere that they're working in, because this is safety to yourself, your body. But we live in a world where when you say it's a men's world, people don't understand it.
Okay, maybe you might explain that a bit more.
I will.
It's a men's world. Let's take our call. Hello, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hello. Good morning once again. This is Kofi Ali.
Yes, Kofi Ali. Let's hear you.
Yes, on the subject being discussed, which has to do with women going out with men. Is that not what you are talking about?
Yes, Kofi.
Please, let us try to look at this in the context of civilized and modern people, rather than people who just anyhow. In a modern world, and which every country in the world, every government in the world have got laws protecting individuals, and the laws, particularly the vulnerable ones, the females and children. So if you are talking about this in that context, then we'll be able to start asking, what is the position of the law on the right of the women, the right of the child? Is the person involved a minor? Because children, girls, some of them may feel they are mature, or for whatever reason, and start going after men. Now, the onus falls on the man who is mature to know the age of the child before you engage.
I think it's both ways, Kofi. It's not just young girls that go after men. Men too do go after young girls.
In this case, I think we are looking at the women. We are looking at the weaker and the vulnerable party. Let us be clear on that. The state has got law on that. If you have a kind of sexual intercourse, for a better choice of words, with a minor, whether it's consented or not, in most countries it's 7 years imprisonment automatically because it's criminal. Then if the person is an adult, is the person aware of a right? If, for example, I work under you and you are coercing me, taking advantage of your position to exploit me sexually, what is the position of the law on this?
Yo, Kofi, just for time reasons, I have to leave it here. Thank you very much for calling in this morning, Kofi Ali. Kiki, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you for joining us this morning. And to our listeners and our viewers. Of course, there's laws, Kofi, but people do think they are above the law. And when people fall victims to such people, they don't tend to come out. So we can only encourage people and raise awareness on this issue. So we can start coming up, and people that need to be thrown into prison, we throw the book at them. We're done for another day. We'll do it again, same place, same time. Until then, which is next week, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global.